On July 19th, Twisters roared into theaters.
Are those fireworks?
Yes, ma'am.
And the weather community's reaction has been nothing short of a whirlwind of approval.
They tried to stick more to the science, and I think this is really going to get a younger generation more interested in meteorology.
But what's behind this storm of positive feedback? Perhaps it's the film's commitment to scientific accuracy, achieved through the involvement of real meteorologists.
I can't imagine anyone having a stronger commitment to realism, accuracy, being as scientifically on point as they can be.
You don't face your fears. You ride them.
This week, we're going off the radar to explore the authentic science woven into the fabric of Twisters. Joining us is one of the experts who worked behind the scenes, bringing a level of scientific integrity that sets this film apart. He'll give us an insider's look at what it was like to transform the actors into believable storm chasers.
Daisy Edgar-Jones and Glenn Powell were sitting on the front row in the dead center, and Daisy took notes the entire time. She was really interested.
They're like mad intelligent about the weather and science, but also like adrenaline seekers, and they all have like crazy dents in their cars from grapefruit size to hail.
We'll also examine how Twisters breaks new ground by tackling a serious, often overlooked issue: the lasting psychological impact on those who survive these terrifying natural disasters.
I don't care how much you love the weather or how much you love tornadoes, you see things, you experience things that stay with you.
So, as Tyler Owen says,
If you feel it.
I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie, and you're listening to Off the Radar, a production of the National Weather Desk. On the show, we dig deep into topics about weather, climate, the ocean, space, and much more. Our goal is to help you better understand the weather, to love it as much as we do. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Off the Radar. I'm your host, meteorologist Emily Gracie. If you haven't watched the movie Twisters yet, press pause, go watch the movie, and then come back and listen to this episode. There are going to be some spoilers in it, so you definitely want to see the movie first, at least once. I've seen it once. I plan on seeing it again. There's a lot of little tidbits in it that I learned from our guest today that make me want to go back and watch it again. So I'll probably do that coming up pretty soon. So today's guest is meteorologist Rick Smith. He's the warning coordination meteorologist at the National Weather Service office in Norman, Oklahoma. And he's going to tell the story of being approached by the movie creators over a year ago before they started filming, because they really wanted to ensure scientific accuracy in this Twister movie compared to the first one from almost 30 years ago. So it's a great episode. Rick is just such a nice guy, and he brings up some really great points about the movie that I didn't even notice when I watched it. So enjoy today's episode, and please, if you are listening right now and are not a subscriber to Off the Radar, go ahead and hit the follow button wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you subscribe. We have some awesome episodes coming up soon. There's going to be one that is about going back to school that's really aimed towards kids. We're going to talk about climate change and climate attribution in an upcoming episode. We're going to talk about the dangers of heat, some fun episodes, including Mythbusters. And also, I have an episode coming up where we're talking about how scientists were able to clean up the Baltimore harbor and make it swimmable. So make sure you subscribe. Thanks for listening today, and enjoy my conversation with Rick Smith. Rick Smith, thrilled to have you on today to talk all things Twisters. You were in the epicenter of all of this happening, and kind of in the epicenter of all things weather, where you work there in Norman, Oklahoma. So you're the warning coordination meteorologist for the National Weather Service in Norman, correct?
Correct. Yeah, the forecast office here in Norman issues warnings and kind of covers we cover 56 counties here in Oklahoma and Texas.
Okay, so take me through kind of the process of this blockbuster movie that has now hit the big screen. It's come out, but I know that you've been involved in this for quite a while. Can you take me through how it started, how you were approached to be a part of this?
Our office was first approached by the production last January, actually, when a location scout wanted to come and visit the building. They were visiting lots of locations around the area, picking out the best red dirt roads and wind turbines and all the things that are in the movie, shot entirely here in Oklahoma. So we hosted a visit with the location scout, and then that would be the first of 6 visits I think we had with some facets of the movie production. There is a National Weather Service office in the movie. So the main thing they were doing here was gathering images and props and things to use for that National Weather Service office scene. So if you see the movie and see the National Weather Service office, it's not on the screen very long, but our office is the prototype for that. So to the trained eye and to me watching it, I can see all kinds of cool things that they borrowed from our office. We let them use the lanyards for the people working in the fictional Weather Service office and for the kids that are on the tour. Just lots of little things like that. So there was lots of discussions with them about what's on this monitor, how do we make this look realistic, and that type of thing. And then we got into this would have been May of last year. We got approached to do a training class for some of the cast and crew. They wanted kind of a combination storm spotter training / tornado education as background for the actors / tornado safety for people that are going to be that are new to Oklahoma, living here in the spring. So we did a 2-hour training class with them, and that was really fun. That was really cool. The actors, everybody was really into it, but Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell were sitting on the front row in the dead center, and Daisy took notes the entire time. She was really interested. So
yeah, I'm curious about the actors themselves, and did any of them stand out as having a real interest in weather, really actually being super fascinated by it?
Every one of them did. I mean, we had 9 cast members. Most of the main chasers that you see in the film, there were a couple that weren't here yet that didn't attend, but certainly the main, the main core lead actors, if you want to call them that. No, they were all into it. They all were very attentive. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if we were going to have Hollywood actors that just, weren't that into it, but they were into it. They asked questions. It was a 2-hour class. They were attentive the whole time. And then after the class, we came and we visited the Storm Prediction Center, and then we hung out in our office for a bit, just standing around talking. I think some of them would have stayed all afternoon. They stayed an hour longer than they were supposed to, as it was. So, but Daisy was certainly the most into it. She was taking notes. She had done research. She knew who Tim Samaras was. She had already studied for the role. And this was the week before they started ever shooting the movie. But yeah, other actors were even the production staff. We had the director, executive producer, the first assistant director, the publicity person. I mean, it was an experience I'll never forget.
Going back to the plot of the movie too, from what I understand, I spoke to Sean Waugh from NSSL a while back, and he said that they were consulted about the plot line and the, working in real science. What do you know about kind of the real versus fake when it comes to some of the science in the movie?
Well, I know that the director, Lee Isaac Chung, and everybody working with him I've never worked with a movie like this before, but I can't imagine anyone having a stronger commitment to realism, accuracy, being as scientifically on point as they can be. They had advisor full-time Kevin Kelleher, who is the former deputy director of the National Severe Storms Laboratory here. He was actually on set with them, and he was actually their paid consultant that really helped them. All of that combined really helped. They were interested in details. They were interested in the science. Now, in the end, we all know it's a movie. It's drama. If they made a completely scientifically accurate movie about storm chasing, none of us would be here talking about it. Nobody would have gone to see it. Maybe a few storm chasers, but so there has to be drama. There has to be tornadoes hitting with little or no warning. There have to be the things that happen in the movie to make it interesting and exciting and making it the success that it has been. But yeah, for us, it was down to the level of what does your ID badge look like? what's on your desk, what's on each individual monitor. So that level of realism they were looking for. But as far as the science goes, I know that Kevin Kelleher especially was involved from the earliest stages, like early versions of the script, helping them craft it. And well, that's not really accurate. We could do A, B, or C. And then at some point sometimes they just wanted to do what they needed to do for the movie. So, but the interest was there for sure. To me, this is, if you want to compare this one to the first movie, this is infinitely more scientifically accurate and on point than the first one.
For sure. For me, it's hard though, because the first one holds such a special place in my heart because I was so young. I didn't know anything about weather, so I didn't know about the inaccuracies. All I knew is that's what I want to do. Yeah.
It always will. I mean, I see people saying, well, is this better than the first one? I don't know whether to go see it. Well, you can like both movies. I like the first movie. I always will. But I love this movie too. I mean, they're different. They're different movies. Same kind of universe, but yeah, I mean, the first one will never not be a classic for meteorologists, for sure.
Yeah, totally. I know a lot of the weather folks in Norman kind of popped in as extras in the movie. Were you in the movie?
I actually was. I actually got
Really? What part?
Kind of outside of my job. I mean, I took the day off and went and did this, but I actually it wasn't a very big stretch for the role I had. I'm a National Weather Service meteorologist in the National Weather Service New York City forecast office there. So,
okay, the New York office.
When Kate is walking through the office there at the very beginning, she walks through pretty quickly and she walks by a monitor. I'm sitting there just to the left of where she's walking.
Gotcha.
So you get about 5 seconds of 60% of my face.
Nice. Claim to fame forever. Okay. Yeah. And I saw a picture of a bunch of you went to the premiere. How many times have you seen the movie so far? It's been out, for only so long. Have you seen it more than once?
I have seen it 5 times now. I'm not ashamed to say it, I guess, but this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So we got a chance with Sean and Kevin and others. I got a chance to go to the Hollywood premiere in Los Angeles back a couple of weeks ago. They had a special premiere in Oklahoma City. I got to go to that one. Probably those were once in a lifetime events. Probably the most fun was going last Wednesday when they did the early release screening. And there must have been 200 meteorologists, TV meteorologists, storm chasers, emergency managers, first responders. The majority of the theater were almost everybody in the theater was someone I knew. And we took a big group picture out front, but that was the most fun. Before the movie came out, I said, I never want to go see this with a bunch of meteorologists because I did that for Twister and everybody was so critical, picking everything apart. But it was so much fun. People cheered when people appeared on the screen. People cheered things like the Fujiwara effect when that's mentioned and the geeky stuff. So it was a great time. And then I've been a couple more times since then.
So you love the movie then?
I love it. Yeah, I love it. My wife wants to go see it again, and I'll be there. It's just so good. The story is so good. Kate's story, I think, is we hear so much about Glenn Powell, but Kate, Daisy Edgar Jones' character, it's her story. The PTSD is something I relate to very, very closely. We talk about that a lot here, and I've been a real champion about that in the weather community. So that the way that's portrayed is just really, really good. So I love it.
There were parts of the movie that surprised me. One of them being there wasn't really like an obvious love story. So that was one that kind of stood out to me. And because every movie seems to have that, there's like a big kiss at the end, right? The other surprise for me was in that, and spoiler alert, but in the final scene where she kind of takes off on her own and saves the day, like no man is involved. So for me, as a female meteorologist, I felt like this is like a very female forward role and female forward movie. Did you feel that too?
As a male meteorologist, yeah. I felt that. And I loved it. I just love her character. I mean, she's tough, and she wasn't taking any of the stuff that Tyler was dishing out, and she had a line to come back, like maybe one day I'll get to be a tornado, things like that. She was just right there hanging in there with him. And you can just see her progression. It's how they portrayed her in the beginning of the movie when she was a student. She was so happy and energetic. And then you see how that changed after the incident under the overpass. But you see a progression. So yeah, I loved it. And what was the first point you brought up? You mentioned that the very end, but what was the first thing you meant?
There was no kiss. There was no love story. There was the hinting of it, but that wasn't what the story was about. It was about her.
I love that too. I know there's an uproar online among some that's like,
those are the Glenn Powell fans of the world.
Yeah. And they actually did shoot that ending, and they actually did test the ending.
I heard that.
So there's leaked video online of them shooting that scene in the Oklahoma City airport. But I just loved how it ended. I mean, that getting a kiss from Glenn Powell was not her reward at the end of the movie. You know, she got to come back home where she had been, and she got back into chasing, and back her passion for the science and for tornadoes was back. So that was, I think I love that ending. And that's just another example of how the subtleties and the way the movie doesn't beat you over the head with things like Lee Isaac Chung. This, I think they handled it perfectly. You know, something's going on, but we don't have to see everything. And it really opens it up to come back and tell more of the story, which I hope they'll do. But like the Twister throwbacks and references and Easter eggs, those are just very subtle. You see Dorothy, but they're not just like, remember Twister, you know, there's a bunch of references in there, but they're just so subtle. I just love how they do that.
It is funny though, when she went back to her home for a hot second, I was like, is it going to be Helen Hunt? Like, is that going to be her mom? I was like, I'm so hopeful.
Coming out of the darkness, that mysterious voice. Yeah. I love them. I love the character that played the mom. Yeah. But yeah, and I've been watching a lot of interviews with the director, and they could have made this a sequel. And I think early on, the expectation was it would be more of a direct sequel with lots of just blatant Twister references and characters being talked about. But they made it their own movie. I mean, it's in the universe, and we know that Dorothy worked at the end of Twister, and it's worked again, and it's just kind of old, as they say, old. It's proven technology. But then they just kind of move on. There's lines, you know, Kate said, you know, we're glad you're back. And she says, I'm not back, which is a direct exchange from the first movie. So, you know, it's connected, but it doesn't have, I liked it the way it was. I don't think we needed to just be Twister the whole time.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, to your point, I didn't think about it until you made this point, the PTSD portion of it, and just mental health that gets wrapped up in this world that we live in too, and especially storm chasing, and, you know, the plot line kind of being overcoming that mental health issue. But I mean, is that something that you have to deal with when you're training people on storm spotting?
Oh yeah, it's something we deal with. It's something we deal with in the Weather Service. We have a whole, I'm part of a team within the Weather Service on critical incident stress management and dealing with PTSD. It's a very, very real thing. I have it. I have some of that from different events, from the May 2013 tornadoes, especially. There's still elements of that. And we do see it with our emergency management partners, first responders, and chasers. I actually did a presentation back earlier this year at the Storm Chaser Summit in Fort Worth about this very thing, about storm chasers having PTSD and mental health issues. Because I don't care how much you love the weather or how much you love tornadoes, you see things, you experience things that stay with you. And Kate's experience was extreme, what happened to her, and that you could see where the PTSD stemmed from on that, but it doesn't have to be anything that dramatic. So it's a conversation that's being had more and more in the weather community, the professional weather community, and the chasing community. I'm glad to see it. And I guess that's why I'm latching onto Kate so much, because you can just see it in her face. You can see the scene where she comes back to Oklahoma and she's riding in the truck and they drive under a bridge. And the way she looks at the overpass, you can just see what's going on in her mind. So I'm just glad that this is a topic in the movie that hopefully will help foster the discussion we've been having.
And that scene, controversial as well, because it's interesting how they seek shelter in the overpass, which is, which we tell people all the time, that's not a place to seek shelter in a tornado. And she even says that line in the movie, that's the worst place to be during a tornado. Was there discussion, do you know, around that scene and the controversy behind it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Kevin Kelleher has relayed stories from the early parts of the script development and reviewing some of that. And he immediately stood up and said, wait, that's obviously something the weather community is trying hard to get the message out about, that's the opposite of what you want to do. And but they stood firm, and that was kind of a non-negotiable thing, because it is one of the key plot points of the entire movie that sets her on the course that she's on. And before the movie came out, I just kept hearing from people that were more in the know than I was that wait and watch the movie. Because I know when that Super Bowl trailer came out, everybody freaked out. All of us weather people freaked out, like, what are you doing? You know?
The trailer was kind of deceiving.
It was. The trailer was deceiving.
It made it look crazy extreme.
Yeah. They did lots of things with the trailer that were different than the movie.
Fire tornado.
But yeah, so no, they knew that was going to be a plot point, and I just kept hearing and telling people, just watch the movie. There's no way they're going to do anything to encourage the idea, and they did the opposite. I think I don't know how realistic it is. One of the things in the movie that's a little iffy for me is like people just getting sucked up into the air by the tornado. I don't know that happens a lot, but some of what went on under the overpass was very, in my opinion, probably what would really happen. So
yeah.
If anybody sees that and then believes that that's a good thing to do, then I don't think that's going to happen. But that was, when the trailer came out, I know in the weather community, that was very controversial.
I think a lot of people wondering, can twisters be tamed?
Yeah, that's. I mean, the very short answer is probably not. Nobody's ever tried it, especially like anything in the movie. Thunderstorms, hurricanes, tornadoes, they all exist for a reason, and that's to even out an imbalance in the atmosphere, in the environment, in the world, taking too much warm air at the surface and not enough warm air aloft, and kind of trying to fix that. So if you start trying to undo that by disrupting a tornado, or you would have to actually disrupt a supercell thunderstorm to disrupt the tornado, what happens? That energy that was being moved around, what's going to happen? I mean, if you cause a thunderstorm to collapse, what are the consequences of that? You know, there might be more damage from the wind coming out of that collapsing thunderstorm than there would have been from the tornado if you had just left it alone. So this is probably the most science fiction-y part of the movie, but it is based on fact. I mean, theoretically, if you got enough of those chemicals together and could get it into the storm and at the right spot at the right time, maybe, but then what happens? So I've been quoting Jurassic Park with this. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And, life finds a way. Well, storms will find a way. If you mess with one part of the storm, it's not going to just vanish into thin air. That's going to be transferred somewhere else. So I think there's a lot of issues with that. But again, it was very effective in the movie as far as a plot device, and certainly the ending of the movie, it kind of paid off there.
Okay, so the first twister inspired a generation of meteorologists. I'm one of them. This twister, let's say somebody is so interested in weather after seeing this movie. What do you suggest people do? How can they get involved in the weather community, even if they're adults beyond college? What can they do to be involved in the weather community if this is inspired passion within?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we're going to have that. I mean, we had the twister effect after the first one, and I think it's going to happen again, especially with such a strong female lead and an example and role model, and the way that she is portrayed. Weather is one of the coolest things because you can become involved in weather at any level you want to. We all experience it every day. If I wasn't getting paid to do this job, a lot of what I do in my job, I'd be doing for free at home anyway, as a hobby. So you can get into weather. You can dig into websites and learn more about it. You can attend National Weather Service storm spotter training sessions, which are held all over the country. We're going to be doing a special one here in a couple of weeks that's kind of twisters focused, kind of talk about the movie in context of spotter training. And so we don't have a date picked out for that yet, but we're working on that. Attend those storm spotter training classes. Visit the National Weather Service. If you want to go so far as you think you might be interested in actually going chasing, that's when, that's a whole other thing. And that's where you really need to think long and hard about that. And there's ways to get involved with people that can maybe help with that too. But weather is just so cool because you can just, anybody can be involved in weather. You can become a volunteer observer and report to the Weather Service. There's so many ways that you can kind of feed that need to be involved, because we want a lot of people, so many people that aren't meteorologists are already involved in what we do. And we're excited that we'll have more after this.
Well, Rick, thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on everything that's come out of this. I'm thrilled for everyone in Norman for all of the attention as well that it's putting on the Weather Service and SBC and NSSL. It's been great for the weather community.
It's been cool. And every day I see new information coming out. Like yesterday, an OU student posted that she was the one that went and found someone in some of Kate's notebooks in her barn. That's her handwriting. And she actually went and found stuff to put in the notebook. So you just keep hearing little tidbits of information. I had no clue that so many people were involved in it, but it's awesome. This is a cool time to be here for sure.
Off the Radar is a production of the National Weather Desk. Make sure you're following the show. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure you hit that follow button so you're notified of new episodes that come out every Tuesday morning. If you know someone that saw Twisters and wants to learn more about it, please share this episode with them. Also, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Let me know what you think of the show. You can also give me ideas for future episodes. A huge thank you to Rick Smith for his time today, sharing everything about the movie Twisters. Also, thank you to Universal for the sound clips you heard at the beginning of the episode. And a shout out to meteorologist Dave Williams from WCIV in Charleston for his 2 cents at the beginning as well. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie. Make it a great day.